Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Smith. This is Smith in the Black. And usually, if it's Monday, it's the power hour, but I wasn't feeling so hot yesterday. So, we're going to do it today to make sure new people and everybody gets up to speed on how to do the strat as fast as possible. It's very visual. For some people, it takes a little bit longer. Don't worry about that. We'll get you where you need to be. Some people pick it up right away. So, if you can't make it, you can always email questions in, and that way it's recorded for everybody and yourself if you can't make it. So always feel free to do that. So I always start off with the emails questions, and we got quite a few. And so if you have questions, start typing them in. But yeah, we got nice shenanigans, car bloodbath, and that's what we like to have. So let me see it. Let's get to the email real quick. Okay. It's memeing. It's moon and memes today. Just joined the SIPE group a few months. I'm trying to apply the strat to my account in the UK. Over there is a tax problem that I think impacts the strategy, hence the question. On ISAs, here we don't pay capital gain, which is nice, but there is a 0.5% stamp duty on the purchase of stocks on the London Stock Exchange. Ouch. This means that regardless if it's a winning or losing trade, I'm starting from a losing position. Getting in and out of a lot of trades becomes very expensive. All right. There's an alternative. Trading on the AIM, the market for small cap companies, is shielded from the stamp duty, but most stocks are not very liquid, and the spread is a much bigger problem. Would you say it's best to apply the strat on the longest time frames on the LSE to absorb the stamp duty, or wait for the setups on the 10 liquid AM stocks? I think you do both, really. And the thing about it too is you'll hear me talk about, hey, what's going on, everybody, about higher probability setups, right? And so the higher probability is when we have a simultaneous break of some sort going on, right? Right now we're just hitting exhaustion risk. If anything, the semiconductors, SMH, in the last few days, and because what that tells us is that they're going after an entire industry group. That's important to know because they're not separating between companies, all right? They're buying everything, right? And that's what we want to know about, right? Because that's the footprints of the institutions. So that's one thing you can do is hold off for that. Also, yes, you can do the longer swings with the bigger monthlies and the weeklies and all that kind of stuff like that. So there's that. And Sunshine here in the chat, if you can make it, is in the UK, so offering some help for you there too. Okay. Next questions. 212 reversals downside. If there's a 2112, the entry should be on the first or the second low of the one. The second one, because it's even tighter now. And so when that triggers, it should trigger that other one, which then should trigger the other two, right? Because we know people are going to have stops on all those spots, right? Could Rob show an example of the broader averages with the chart trending up or down for reversals? Wait for them to triangulate out. So I can go to NVAX real quick. Sorry about leaving this up there for you. NVAX was good today. Good example of triangulate out. So here, once we know that this inside week, the 212 reversal, and we're going after a 2-2-monther, if you go to the 60, you're going to see this. You're going to see a continuation, then a reversal. This was the inside 60 continuation. Here's your reversal. 2 up, 2 down. And there's your 2-2 reversal right there. Perfect. Now, if you go to the 30-minute, you see this. The 3-2-2, right? Triangulate out right here. Boom, boom. Going to take this out, and these guys became an outside bar of that outside bar, right? And then if you go to the 15er, here, triangulate out, they will. 2 down, 2 down, inside 212 on the 15er. And if that works, it's going to trigger that 30, and if that 30 works, it's going to trigger that 60. So always looking down the road. If this works, what's that going to do, right? Does it give us more opportunity, right? It does. At that point, it certainly did. And And the gap list comes after the opening. No, I tweet that out right at the beginning, and then I go through it before we open to see if they're really reversals or not, or what's going on in there, if they're really gappers or not. Trading the reversal means at the opening there are retracements and then comes the reversal around 10 a.m., 10:30. Sure, yeah, or later in the day. And sometimes, like on a 30, if it gaps up and just starts puking, something like that. Going 3, that's a little more challenging with the continuity entries. But you can just wait for the 2-2 reversals or 2-1-2 reversals on 30s and 60s. There's more than enough to do on that. And one of the problems, I enter too early or too late and then get FOMO to trade again. So, as always, you can always run stuff by me, or type in with the type in what you're about to do, and the community will help you out, right? And stay in the 30s and 60s. Yeah, I'd do that. Like you said, you don't want to grind up too much commission. And and you're still new to this, right? So the better you get, you might choose to do that. But while you're just holding off, just trying to figure it out, don't grind your account. Don't grind your account. And because another thing that you'll hear me say sometimes, I'll be like, yeah, always ask if you're new. And also, I won't be watching those, and I might not even have charts of those, but just trying to apply the same concepts that I'm talking about. Like, are they all in the same industry group? Is it everybody's breaking an inside 60 at the same time? That's another type of simultaneous break, right? Just be aware of that. That's how you can get those higher percentage plays. Okay, and next question. Okay. If a gapper does its thing early in the day, might a noob still play it against full time frame continuity as a gapper later in the day? How long does a gapper stay in force? Yeah, you can do that, because the thing about gaps, like ANET, something like this, and so the thing about it is, some people new to the strat would say, well, I can't short this thing because it's green on the month and it's green on the week, right? I'm like, you can, because it's going into exhaustion risks, it's going into new highs, right? And so the buyers might be cleaned up. That might be it right there, right? They're the guys who took it up there, but if they don't come back with more stuff to buy, that could be it, right? So you can do the fade out the 60s and stuff like that, sure. Because continuity is a double-edged sword. It's like, if everybody's a buyer and then it gaps up, everybody who wants to be long might be long. That's not good. That's called a crowded trade. So that's why we mine the flip. I don't know if there was anything good on this on the 30 at all, but there you go. It's this 10:07. Inside on the 30 and a sideways 60 and then puke. Yep, you could have taken that. If that makes sense. And AMD today. So AMD didn't really gap. Looks like it just hit magnitude on the day. 128.08. Yep, 120. So that hit that. And on the 60. So the 212 here, yeah, it just didn't go. And the problem you had here is that almost all the semiconductors were up, right? We didn't have a lot of reason to believe this would work, and that's why you preferred to take this to go into the highs, which it did. And so, like I said, with something like AMD, you want to have that watching with all the semis. So if all of them started to puke, that'd be another thing. It's not what happened though. And so BT. Ugh, I don't know what the hell happened in here, but this is mother bar issue, setting up the RevStrat day. Handily inside week, handily inside month. So on the 60, there's a 3-2 back down into this, and maybe. But that's why we're always looking at all time frames. Even if that works, what is it really going to do? It's going to stay stuck in this thing, right? So you would have preferred the other Bitcoiners. There you go. SI, inside week to the upside. Now you got exhaustion risk, but then you just wait for a triangle layout. 2-1-2 and back up for another $4 or so. Okay. Next question. And does size matter? Can you grow over size amounts on trigger entries exits? Can you go over size amounts on trigger entries exits? Should we incorporate the scaling in, scaling out method with hard stops? No, we don't want to scale out. We're either good or we're not. So there's everybody's going to be different. And it's going to customize it to yourself. Do you have $1 billion? You got $5,000? What do you got, right? And so ideally, we start small and add to our winner, right? And then if it keeps going, there's no need to scale out, right? We're either in or we're out, right? So what you can do is, let's say that you have longer term stuff intact still, and it's still pretty volatile, and you got a short term sell signal. You don't have to take the whole thing off, right? You can take some of it off. If it's nowhere near reversing a daily or weekly or monthly signal, it's nowhere near that, right? You can trim it like that. But then if it sets up again, you want to add back in because it's still good. And that's what keeps you on those real big movers, right? Okay. So let me go back. Let's see what questions we got. Okay, that's it for email. And can you please talk about reading the tape and how we might incorporate it similar to the way Jim does? Well, watching the tape can be a little tough. I'm not really proficient on doing that. I mean when I say reading the tape, the way he does, he's going to be level 2, right? And reading like that. When I consider tape reading, is what I'm doing all day, scanning and searching, seeing what's going on. And that's where I'll identify the simultaneous break and say, look, when I pull up my scan and I say, okay, what are all the names that are above yesterday's high? And I see SMH, AMD, Intel, Nvidia. It's like I know that's how I'm reading the tape. I'm telling you there's a break in the semiconductors because they're all twos on the day. Does that make sense? And is there different gappers every single day? Yep. Always different. Unless you gap in twice in a row. And especially this time of, the earnings season. And that's why you don't have to take them all either. You can say, well, I'm not trading this thing, it's too liquid for me. I'm like, that's fine. Stay in ones that are comfortable to you. And be patient. That's one of the hardest things, that I have to preach all the time. You don't have to trade every day, right? You can't get it all. And oftentimes, less is more. And because you've seen it, everybody's seen this one. You get chopped up and then a real move and everybody's all going nuts and you're not in, right? And Kyle, what's the best way to set up our screens to watch setups? There's no way to every ticker like no. Yeah, no, you want to have a universe that you're staying on, right? And you can change what's going on depending on market conditions and saying, okay, I want a simultaneous break, I want whatever it may be. I'm just going to watch my 30-60 gappers and that's it. And then maybe I'll call an audible when I do the strat time report. Depending on what's going on, you can do that. So don't try and watch it all. As I've often said, once you have your universe, then you extract what I'm saying. Right? You extract what's important to you, right? And everything else is just Charlie Brown's teacher. Semiconductors inside in the 60. Simultaneous break. They're all going. Boom. Pull up my semi list. But don't try and jump around. They'll drive you nuts. And watch one ticker at a time. Well, I mean, you can narrow it down, to accrue what you're looking at, and then you can make a layout of 30s and 60s and just rifle through those once you know that they're in your wheelhouse and say, I'm not going to trade anything that's not 2-2 reversal month. All right, so you already know that your list is your 2-2 reversal month, right? And then you can go just rifle through those and say, I don't care about anything else. This is what I do. And when bar has the same higher low but looks like a 1, since it's not inside the previous bar, it's still a 1. Oh, yeah. Didn't break it. Didn't break the goal line. And can you go over continuity break? Yeah, continuity entry is something like this on the 60. So we're looking to break the week, right? Full time frame continuity to the upside, albeit we're going to go into some exhaustion. But on the 60, right on the opening, see this? It opens, it ticks down, and then boom, kicks back into full time frame continuity to the upside right here. You can grab it right there with a tight stop. It's got to go, but that's one way you can get in if you don't wait for, what's this? Triangle the out. Stop these guys out, 2 down, 2 up, and boom, off she goes. Okay. And what's the best way to choose if it's gap and go or gap and crap? Signals will tell you. Is it a reversal or is it not? All right. Do I have continuation or do I have a reversal? And so the 2-2 break, 2-2 reversals should just go. That's your gap. Oftentimes you gap them, crap them right away as a 2-2 reversal. When it gaps up, sits there, and then does nothing, and then pukes. We like that one. We like that one. Although sometimes that happens pretty quick on the shorter time frames. So we let them tell us. What is it doing? Is it continuing? Is it reversing? And if you enter a 2 up, at what point would you assume it's going to go back down into a 3? Sometimes I enter a 2 up break and it just pokes up and reverses back down. I want it to just go. If I have a reversal on my hands and I have full time frame continuity, I have every reason to believe that's going to work. If it doesn't work, I'm gone. Sarah might give it 50%. Not me. I want these things to just go. And that's why you'll hear me talk about so much patience. I'm like, okay, now. A lot of times I'll be just talking, trying to figure out what's going on, and people ask me, I'll be like, maybe, and I'm kind of a spoiled brat. I want things that should go, right? I have every reason to believe it's going to go, right? Simultaneous break in the sector, reversal back into full time frame with my magnitude, because you don't want to take just a 2 up and then another 2 up. That's just asking for a triangle, right? Now, there's some people who are good at that and saying, okay, well, I'm going to do it because I'm already at a profit. I know there's more magnitude on this thing. Everything's going, and I think Jim calls them savage ads, but that's not for everybody. And also for newer folks, don't think you got to know every aspect and every setup of the strat. I'll say this all the time. Be a one-trick pony. This is all I do. 260 reversals. That's it. That takes at least an hour to set up, right? And trying to understand when it's okay to trade when something's still inside in a larger time period. The longer the time period, the more you can, right? Because you'll still have enough, action in there. So otherwise, you'd never trade an inside quarter. But there's so much time in there, and it could have so much length. And inside month, you just want to be aware of it. And hopefully, that's why you like to get those combinations, like NVAX. This is what I'm talking about. If that worked, it's going to trigger that. This baby right here is going to trigger that, right? That's something I'd want to know about. And so with FedEx, yeah, FedEx is a little stuck. But you are closer to the 2 up on the month. That's why it has our attention. We know this is here, right? That's a good thing to know about. And so I don't have to be the first guy in there too. That's another problem that people will have, is that they always feel like they got to be the first one in. Like, I got to get this thing as soon as it takes off. I'm like, no, you don't. If it's really going to move, you'll have tons of entries, right? Like Teslar's on the way up. Here's mother bar problem. The 60, this thing. Look at this. You can get murdered in here. You get murdered in here. Can't get out. See? Even gets worse. Then these guys are all inside of this stuff here. See, it just keeps getting worse. So let them get killed. If it starts going, unfortunately, the transports are going to be messed up because of car now, but. uh, okay. I exited DEC, NVIDIA, AMD, Tesla, and some others early, Rob. Had decent gains, but left a lot on the table. It seemed to be confusing the forest for the trees. If I enter on a 212 reversal on time frame continuity, daily chart, should I use the previous day's low as a stop and walk it up? If you can do that if you want, as long as you have longer term stuff and more magnitude on it. Does it make a difference if I enter off the 60 into time frame continuity? Does it make a difference to 60? Well, is the 60 going to break the day? What's that going to do? Is it a reversal? Where's the magnitude on that? And one of the good rules for trading something that's still inside is when I talk about putting all the pieces parts together. If you have like a 30 or a 60 where the magnitude it's not going to be an inside day, you definitely take that, right? Because it's going to ruin that. It's going to ruin that for them. So that's why we always want to see what setup will trigger other setups. So FedEx, just kind of circling to see if you can get this big. Then we'll talk. If we can take this month out. It's in the vid because it's inside day, but that doesn't mean I'm hawking it right on the break. I want to see what's going on with UPS. I want to see what's going on with the trannies, what's going on in the market. Desperately need a universe, but being new, it's so hard to drill in. Any choice feels arbitrary. Run it by me and stay on those gappers. Or when I call, because you'll notice, like in today's Strat Time report, the groups I was talking about was really just some Bitcoins and those guys and semiconductors. As far as sectors, we really could use some more sector rotation, but right now they're just just waiting out a lot of earnings, right? And that's why we could use some more disasters or rippers like Carr and stuff like that. We could use a little bit more. GNRC, yeah, I think we had a good 15er to start the day, right? Mutter bar later in the day. The 15 on the opening, this was real good. Boom, 2-2, boom. And any sign of trouble, just dump it. Went from 482 to 524. There's a lot of meat on them bones in there. Right? Then the 30 did the 2-2, but then exhausted, right? And then came back down. Boom, hit him right there. 2-2-30 back down, right? And then depending on how aggressive you are, you got your 2-1-2-30 back up to get back long. Then you got chopped up a little bit. And 60 got stuck in here. But there's some nice 30s, 15ers. Difference in good gapper and bad gapper? No. Just gapped up a little, gapped and crapped, and just kind of sat there grandpappy style. New highs, though. There's no special sauce. That's why I go through them, and we can always bring in more. Because if I was to look at this, I mean, after a while, you'd know what I was going to say. Rob would say this is going into exhaustion wrist, right? So it just gaps and does nothing. That's out of yesterday's 2-2-2. Yeah. The 3-2-2, oh yeah, 3-2-2 is a beaut. And go to the course, play the video several times, open the TV to practice, but I get lost. Check with me. What are we trading, boys? And Rob, don't worry about me. Like I said, it's customized. Everything's not suitable for everybody. That's why I don't say, everybody, we're buying this. Everything's got different suitability. So I wouldn't trade that thing on a 10-foot pole. Certain things like Ulta and stuff like that, some people never touch that. Right? Stuff like that. Look at this Ulta, chop them up in here. So everybody's different on what they're going to trade. And that's why you'll hear me say I'd rather have you trade one condition than trade the same stock over and over again. Because the conditions are constantly changing. You might be getting chewed up in an inside week, right? But if you nail down, this is all I do, right? 3-2-2s, whatever it may be. Because then you have your own scan and be like, all right, this is all I look for, right? Be like, I only trade 2-2 monthlies. 2 up, boom. That's all I do, right? And how do you execute tight stops without putting in a stop loss that can be seen and trigger immediately with the entry order? Just watch like a hawk and sell manually when it doesn't go your way with the market order? I'm good with that. I prefer, but pretty quick, I'd like you to have a stop in there somewhere in case shenanigans ensue. So even if it's a little looser to start, right, that's okay. You just got to be aware of it. Once it goes your way, move that baby. Because unlike, other trading, where they're like, I need to give it some time, some wiggle room. We don't need that. We're getting into something because we believe something's going to happen, right? We do. We do. And over time, I preach the tight stop just because I don't want people getting murdered. Over time you'll see these things play out and be like, all right, well, let's just micro tries these guys out. That's still good, and then, you know, but I need to know that you know that. And Eli, I'm trying to build my universe as a new strat trader. What is the best way for me to build a 2-2 reversal list? Well, it depends on where you are, what software you have. If you go to the Facebook group, we've got pretty much everything. And weekend vid, right? And then strat attack. Because the strat attack is where I go back to those longer terms, weeklies and monthlies. Like this is good all month. TJ Maxx, what's that? This is good all month. Get boy. Of course, this time of year you want to check out when the earnings are coming out. But there's your 2-2 reversal on the month for TJ Maxx. It's only the second day of the month. That's good all month. And you're going back into an old 3. Get boy. See if we can take these guys out. Triangle day out, lower low. After triangle day out, higher high. And there's your 2-2 reversal on the weekly puker. Then tried to go 2-2, didn't really go. But then you just waited for that monther, and there you go, 2 straight up days. And GNRC. Yeah, once you go into exhaustion risk and starts bailing on you, what that 15er do? That was a little rough. Once this thing starts tanking too much, because we were looking once it did this, we were looking for outside day, which we got. Then once it goes above this thing here, I want to stay above 510.53. Stay outside of this thing, which would have been a pretty nice sale. And best way to start your universe: SPY Qs, 3 or 4 large liquid caps, like Apple, Boeing, Bobby. I'm good with that too. Right, the usual suspects. Where would I exit on Ford? I wouldn't. If I was long, that's still 2 up. Not scared. Yeah, if she goes 2-2 tomorrow, now you have my attention. And it depends on where you're in from too, because if you got Ford and the macro break, you're still good. Then it tries you out, but you're still good. And you're nowhere near being a 2 down on the week. So how do you check with me? Type it in. Type in what you're thinking about doing. I'm thinking about this. You might get a yip or a resounding no. That's not a reversal. Just type it in. We're here all today. And as you can tell, a lot of people like to help. It's one thing I love about the strat. It gives people the teaching bug. And taking monthly triggers or anything longer time frame, is your stop loss more forgiving to allow it the longer time frame, or even when you take a monthly trigger, you still the assumption it's going to go now? Yeah, I'm on the assumption it's going to go now. It might retrace. You might have some noise in there, but I want to stay profitable first of all. But as long as that signal's still good, that's still good, right? And that's why we try and use those shorter time frames to nail down the entry. Say, okay, if this works, that monthly is going to start going, right? And if it comes back on me, I cut it. But then there's something we call doing battle. If that signal goes good again, you're good again, right? Something like TJ Maxx, you'd watch like Ross Stores and all the gang over there. Kohl's, how they doing? So you got the Ross Stores trying to take the 2-2 on that as well. KSS 2-2 month as well. That's good. Yelling for it all year. Yeah, get all the indicators out and strat only. Yep, you'll be a lot happier. Like I said, if it takes a little bit longer, it takes a little bit longer. But once you get it, you get it. That's the beauty of it. Can you touch on why and how nice and steady trends form? Time frame continuity. You got buyers in there, right? And so what we want ideally is to come back to the previous range, right? Like a Zilla puker, right? We call it pivot machine gun. When you come back to the previous range, right, and it's red on all time frames, and this goes for the upside or the downside. So the reason we want to do that is because we want to create more sellers. And what I mean by that is when it's red on all time frames, right, and those time frames are separate, those openings are separate, that tells me by price and time the sellers are aggressive. They're hitting the bid. They're not sitting around waiting to get the price. They're just nailing the bid. All right, that's a good thing, right? Because when you come back to the previous range, now you're going to stop people out, right? That's turning them into sellers, right? That's why that works. That's why it works. That's why we like to triangulate out and come back to the previous range, right? You got aggressive buyers or aggressive sellers, and you're stopping people out. And that's why it's called exhaustion risk when you go into the highs, like SPY. Maybe it keeps going, maybe it doesn't. But you're not stopping anybody out, you know, outside of real tight stop guys, but you know what I mean? Come ripping back through that range. And that's why we want to watch it. And when I say like simultaneous break, and like everything in the sector's up, like the semis today, they're going up. The amount of twos, the sector and the market will trade in the direction of the most twos, and failed twos go in three with continuity. It has to, and so that's why I'm always scanning for that. Who's going up? Who's going down? And so sometimes it'll be everybody. Like if I do a scan, it's like almost 90% of names are taking out yesterday's highs. Market's not turning around anytime soon. That we do know. And if it is, it's going to have to do it on the 61st. Daily SPY option contracts? Oh, yeah. The thing about doing options and stuff, you really want to be able to know your magnitude, right? Like Sarah is a hit and run and she's gone. That's why she's the snipe, right? Because what you'll have is when you do have ripping through a range like that, you get a big gamma spike, and then as soon as it hits exhaustion risk, those things collapse. So you want to be able to take advantage of that. Know your magnitude. All right, cool. You got to know your magnitude on those babies. Otherwise, the Theta gang's going to beat you up. And they're not nice. How much you put on a trade? Like I said, everybody's different, but it's always start small and add to the winner, right? And that's why I'm really patient in saying I want to see like in the NVAX. I want to make sure there's a combination about to go off. Everybody who shorted last month went underwater today. Everybody. So anybody went short last month, they went underwater. And then here, yesterday morning, anybody who got short last week, they went underwater to trigger these guys to go underwater. That's something I'd want to know about, right? So start small, and then have a bigger magnitude and say, okay, this might have taken care of business on these guys. Now am I going to be strong enough for that? Well, I got some heavy lifters over here on my monthly, right? That helps. But it is a mistake to go in on to take a full position on your opening position, because if you do that and you don't know your magnitude, all you're going to do is have the same amount of winners and losers, right? And then when you lose, you freak. But It's those keep a goingers where you just keep loading the boat that's going in the right direction where other guys are selling it, right? It's like in some interviews, you may have heard me talk about this. Most traders do not know how to properly gauge magnitude. And you know how I know that? Because they'll sound off, well, I think NVAX is going from 150 to 195 or whatever, and they say that, right? And then it gets there, and they go out and tell the whole world that they said that, and I would say, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm selling out my last piece, and I'm like, I want to be as long as I've ever been when it gets up here. I don't want to be selling into this if I think it's going up there, right? But they don't know, right? That's a big advantage that we have. We know our magnitude. Where's it going? Up there. Sure. Yep. Yep. And you're welcome, Peter. Yep. Is magnitude different than broadening formation? No. It's just we know that both sides of ranges get taken out. They get tested, right? So even if you can't see a broadening formation, that phenomenon occurs. So that's why we wait for reversals, and then we know that because outside bars exist, that's going to not only is it going to test the other side, it's going to go through it. Now, whether it stays up there or not is another story. That's exhaustion risk, but that's where it's going. You trade about 5% max in the account for each trade. Cool. And there you go. Strat Soldier, if you check out episode 7 of the Weekend Shift, talked about the Strat Trade Checklist. I sold my last piece. Boo. Is there an efficient way to scan for combinations of stocks close to triggering a combination? It depends on how sophisticated you want to get. And that's where the weekend vid comes in handy. TO on mute. And for newer folks especially, just keep seeing things our way. Eventually it just jumps out at you. And this is all you're going to see. Right? Once it hits, an analogy I use that for like those magic eyes puzzles, where like it's a house, but if you like stare through it, you see a boat. And then that's all you see anytime you look at that thing. It's like that. If you're not looking to sell unless there's a move against you, are you open to swinging every trade? Well, not everybody wants to hold overnight. It's not good to not have access to the market. So everybody's different. Like I said, some people close out and say, I'm more than enough to do every day. And then there's other people say, something, there's a heck of a lot of magnitude on this. Or there's a high probability, like when the vol shows up, right? Like SPY here, right? Last year. Y'all should have been here for this. And if you haven't read my article about algorithmic trading, you see this here. This is a new quarter. This was April, right? And so when this started to take off, only the year was red, and it was an outside bar already, right? So in my article, what we did is we wanted to go after anything that was still up on the year, right? Shoppy. Get boy. Boom. Gone. And also a reversal, because here, this is March. So if you were short shop, you got what you wanted. Market gets pounded, right? But as soon as that new month pops up, shoppy. Get boy. Now, still up on the year and on the quarter and a reversal on the month. That ain't going down anytime soon. W. Perfect. It's perfect. I'm like, is pandemic bad for these guys? No. Boom. And Teslers. We knew about all that stuff. Here it is. Nice inside month you got there. Oh, that's 2 years ago. Last year, April. Yep. Nope. Here. Boom. Look at that. Here's April. Then inside month. Boom. Gone. Let me see. Let me see. Rock prepping for the opening. I didn't. I did not see your question about prepping for the opening. Boom. Get. Because we're trading against people in discernible losing positions, right? That's a good thing. People that need to make a decision. If you're profitable, you don't have to do anything. But if you're losing, there's only so many things you got to do something. And the worst thing you do is ignore it. Those are the guys who blow out on the bottom. Um, Price of the options? Yeah, we'll just pull it up. So what some people will do also, let's say that you had like Conoco or something here. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but so if you're brand new, the last simultaneous break, good one monthly was the energies, right? We knew about that. Right? Conoco, the 322, everything, right? Everything in September and the energy was going. That was a simultaneous break, and we knew about that, right? So what some people will do is because when you have that going on and you know the magnitude's up here, you can try and make some in here on the way up, and then roll it into the higher options that are cheap. And then once she goes blasting through, they become expensive. See an XLE. XLE was this. XLE was the 2-2 reversal. LPI, I mean, all of them were going. Look at that. There's a 3-2-2 still hasn't completed yet, but that was nice. LPI went from 58, 59, spiked up to 92. And that's what I'm talking about with simultaneous breaks. If you haven't watched my uh, the weekend shift with Jermaine, that's all we talked about. Because before then, we had FAS 322. We knew all the financials. So we don't have that right now. We have it a little bit in the semis, but they've hit magnitude. We were looking for that 2-2, but there's not a lot of meat on them bones. But if it's everybody, well, still some I'd want to know about. If you watch the weekend video, there's a lot of hammers in the monthly semis. Um, yeah, new trader. Yeah. hmm Steve was ecstatic when I wrote that. He's like, it's unbelievable. I'm like, that's what's going on, man. Just so you know, so you don't have to whine. How come you're losing at trading? Algorithms are picking me off. Not really. Not really. You kind of handed it to them. And when something reaches the top of a broadening formation and reverses, what happens if it doesn't go to the bottom of the broadening formation before testing a new higher high? Do you still expect it to test the bottom and go for a lower low? Not necessarily. That's why you'll hear me sub-try of the sub-try. So you get that reversal, but then you might get a reversal back up, right? So SPY goes into exhaustion risk here. I make this seem so easy, don't I? Look at this. 2-2 reversal on the week. Right? Then it gapped down but tried to come back. Then slight lower low. 2-2 reversal. Boom. Right? Because another problem that people have, the trading triangles are way too tight. Right? And you can see just here, look at this. This is beautiful here. Kicker on the opening. Look at this. 2 down, 2 up. That's going to work. Yep, that's going to work. So that's why Teresa, that we are always watching all the time frames. What will this do to the other time frames? Right? I might be an exhaustion risk, but I ain't nowhere near turning around. Right? Optionstrat.com. There you go. There's so much strat stuff out there these days. The 3-2-2. It's fun to say and fun to do. Where's it going? Up there. That's pretty far up there. I'm like, overcoming the FOMO. Just chill, man. Just listen to me. Like you said, I'm a spoiled brat, man. I'm always looking, but I can be kind of persnickety. Say, maybe. I don't know. Because depending on how long you've been here, there'll be times when I know it's on. It's on now. Remember that thing I was talking about? It's doing it. it's doing it. And make sure you trade reversals. Yep. No reversal, no me. Usually it's smacked on outside bars in the first hour. What's the best way to avoid that? I try to get the full move, only to get clapped. Hold off. What's the hurry? We gain information as days go on. We're always gaining information until we have to start off with a clean slate again on the new month. Right? So whatever happens, that's why I show you the 2-2 on a Tuesday. That happens in everything. Everything's going to reconfirm or negate. So when things occur matter. So if you hold off the first hour, that's where some people get the FOMO. So he starts blasting off and you're like, oh man, I have nothing. It's like, don't worry about it. They'll triangle out. They always do. If it's really going to keep going, you'll have an opportunity to get in. If not, so what? And so the second week of the month is always going to reconfirm or negate what we know about the first week. Just like Tuesday is going to reconfirm and negate Monday. So even if you're just watching this week and being like, okay, here's what they think they're going to do for this month, right? As far as we know. And then does anything negate that going forward? And that's why the flip was so important on the 60. Did whatever we do on the opening 60 get changed in the second, right? And you can just follow along the bouncing ball with the 60. The 2-1-2 reversal. The 2-2 reversal. 2-2 and off she goes. Fun. Yep. Triangle out. See you next week. If you can get that rev strat. Mother bar issues forever. How are you going to get out of this month? It would be a rev strat if it closed out and then took this up next week. If this were Friday, that would be a rev strat to the upside. Yep, 122. Okay. Yeah, no fun. Kilts. Forget the kilts. And Facebook. So Facebook's an outside day. Here's what we know about the Facebooker on the 60. How do we get out of this thing after derev strat? Goes back into the trash she goes. Once a 3, always a 3 can't not be. So the question is, you're going to re-trigger this, right? If you start moving up through here, you're going to re-trigger that week. That's good. Then you can get that 3 deucer and take her up. Now you got some distance on that month, but that could also trigger, right? If you can get out of here, if you go to the top of the try, the top of this is 345.02. 345.02, you say. So right around that neighborhood would be the top of the try, or it would be a reversal on the month for the 322 biggie. Boom. All right. Well, it looks like just about an hour. That was a pretty good session. A lot of new folks, but we do it every week. Okay, one more Nike. I'll do a Nike for Nike inside day today. So Nike just getting closer to exhaustion risk. Looks like it was a 2-month last month. So it's just walking up. So minding that inside day. You got exhaustion risk. You got a little bit more to take these guys out though. Here's Juicy. Triangle day out. 2-2. Oop, back to the previous range. Stopping out the shorts. Because triangle day out happens a lot. That's one thing that when Dan at TrendSpider started programming it, he's like, that 2-2 reversal happens a lot. I'm like, yeah, it does. yeah, it does. All right. Cheat sheet, thank you. All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm going to get this recording put up on my YouTube Toot Suite. And we'll see you all bright in the morning. The long day comes to an end. All right.